Alright, so today I just wanted to take this opportunity for this week's video to have, I guess, a little bit of a rant. Working with a number of clients as we do over the case of an entire season and having worked with literally hundreds of different teams now, there's been a little bit of a common theme that we've seen emerge, and it's something that I find, particularly frustrating given how I approach my own sport. If I reflect back on my own sporting experiences, one of the things that I feel was my strength was the fact that I became a student of the sport. And what I mean by becoming a student of the sport is someone who takes a lot of ownership in their own performance, who wants to discuss the finer intricacies as to how to improve, whether it be from a mental or a technical or an emotional standpoint, and really wanting to understand all of those tiny little things that you need to get right. Ultimately, what we're referring to here is a student of the sport has been given the necessary tools to be successful, but not just that, they're prepared to use them. In many ways, when the coach wasn't available or wasn't around in the context of a sport like rowing, it's interesting because it's a sport where when you push off from the pontoon and you're at the Olympic final, the coach says to you, good luck, have a great race, enjoy the experience. Now, for the next 45 minutes, that coach is not available to help you. And it's one of the aspects of rowing that really does create a high level of accountability for one's performance. A coach cannot intervene between the time that you push off from the pontoon to when you sit on the start line and finally start racing. And so from within the boat, from within the crew, someone has to be accountable for putting into practice the tools that you've been given that you know and have proven to be successful in the past in helping you produce a great performance. And so what I'm talking about here is a number of teams that I've helped and tried to be part of that ultimately have been given the tools and yet are still at that stage where, well, is it because they're not competent, they're not proficient using the tools, or is it because it does take a lot of discipline to use the tools that you know are actually going to help you improve? I mean, ultimately, when I think about a presentation that I watched by Holtz, he was at the lacrosse convention perhaps 4 years ago, and I sat in his presentation and he was speaking about sport today, leadership, how student athletes are to act and behave. And the reality is that he put up as a philosophy, he put up on the board, he put up the words rights and privileges. Now, when we think about a Division 1 athlete, and any athlete in college really, the number of rights and privileges that you are exposed to, the fact that you've been selected to participate in a sport, you get the opportunity to participate across your country, to travel. It's a pretty great life, really. There are a lot of rights that go with that. The privileges of wearing the team clothing to represent your college, a lot of privileges. Now, if you feel like once you've been selected for the team that it's all about your rights and privileges, well, it's going to be a pretty meaningless experience, because in reality it's more about what are your obligations and responsibilities, what are you accountable for delivering now. And the reality is that as an athlete you're accountable for delivering a performance, and we don't need to make apologies for that, because the reality is that to run a sports program today, I used to think about how much money it cost us to get sent to the Olympic Games. I think Australia did a study and the figures were roughly around about $1 to $2 million per medal. That's what it costs the taxpayers in our country to produce an Olympic medal. That is a fortune. That is a lot of money when you think about all of the other things that could be that money could be spent on. And so the reality is in sport today is that we'd like to see more athletes being a little more accountable for using the tools that they've been given. And obviously that means becoming competent and proficient in those tools, but it means being disciplined enough to actually utilize them. If you look at it as an example, we talk about mental toughness a lot. The ability to set short-term goals, to think positively to yourself, to say positive things to other people, to manage your stress. Those 4 simple steps, they don't just happen. It doesn't just happen on game day when you turn up, suddenly you're mentally tough. Now you've got to practice that during the week. It's not that you won't have negative thoughts. Mentally tough people will have negative thoughts as well, but they're disciplined enough to know that they're having them, and then to break the pattern and say stop, and now to reframe it into a positive thought, or they say something encouraging to the person beside them. That is a strategy that you can utilize. We used to talk a lot about in rowing, when you get to the halfway point in a rowing race, your legs are already burning, your entire body is feeling like it needs to shut down. And at that point, if you haven't prepared for what that's going to feel like, if you don't have a strategy in place to help you get through that next 3 or 4 minutes, then your performance is going to just slide down the hill and all of the other crews are going to go past you. So you know it's coming. You know it's going to be tough when you compete. You've been given strategies to utilize to help you to deal with that, to be mentally strong. You just got to use them.